Hey guys, okay, this is the big one. This is going to be the adding the boss to our scene part. All right, or at least I hope it is. This may have to be broken into two parts, but we're going to get as far as we can in this one first. So what I want to do is the first thing is we're going to need to create our boss. This is going to be kind of a little complicated little system, but we're going to basically start off with creating the boss, and then we're going to start attaching some of the parts and pieces to it in order to make it function. The first thing we need to do is let's just go ahead and create other, and I'm just going to make a sphere boss. You know, just kind of simple kind of. Okay, I did not want that to tear off. Just a simple sphere for the moment. Let's make it fairly large size, so let's say 8 by 8. How's that? 8 by 8. That's a pretty good sized. That would work for the boss, right? Okay, so let's give him a material. So let's create a material. Let's do material. All right, and let's call this one boss. All right, and for the moment, we will make him. Let's go with a yellowy, dingy yellow kind of color. That'll work. Yeah, all right, so boss is going to be yellow. All right, so here's sphere. Let's make sure it's renamed to boss, okay? And what we want to have happen is here's the boss. He's untagged at the moment. He's got his material. He's set at 000, and we have to think about what we want this boss to do. All right, so what I'm really expecting this boss to do is he's going to be a bigger monster. He's going to move. He's going to shoot things at the player. What I was wanting to have happen with this guy is I want him to shoot homing missiles at the player. So he's going to be moving around on the side of the screen, shooting these homing missiles at our player while our player is going to be basically shooting, dodging, and jumping to try to make sure that you can knock his hit points out. All right, so we know he's going to shoot, so we're going to need to add a empty game object to him. All right, and call this one boss bullet spawn. Okay, set it back to 0, 0, and 0. Parent it to the boss. Okay, and then what we'll want to do is pull that out. Out to the side of it. All right, so we'll have a bullet kind of spawn point for our boss. Okay, so the boss, what we want to have happen is he's going to, at the start of the game, he's not going to exist. So we're going to have to turn this guy into a prefab, have a trigger that will create him, and what we want him to do is he'll probably spawn somewhere up in here and then move down to this ledge over here where we can. We'll then, engage him. So what we want to have happen is there's going to be a couple of different parts to him. The first part is we go ahead and add an FSM, and we'll do work on that movement. Okay, so the first one will be boss movement. Okay, and the boss movement is going to be basically composed of two parts. We're going to have a start movement. Okay, so move start or start move. Okay, and then we're going to have what I want to call a pattern move. All right, so the first event we need to have is say pattern. Okay, and create a new state, and then go state 1, and then add a state, call it state 2. All right, we're going to just kind of multiply these. So start move, just like with our platform, we want an action. Action needs to be a transform, translate. So we'll add that, and the second action needs to be a time and a wait. All right, so we want to translate. In this case, I want them to slide down. All right, so the wait will come down to the bottom. So move down, so that'd be say Y, let's say a -10 for the moment. Every frame, update, that kind of thing. Let me move the wait, there we go. And then the wait, say time would be say 2 seconds. Finish event pattern, add the transition pattern, and then we're going to go to, or start 1 to start 2. Well, that's going to be the exact same thing as these. So I could either use the use a template, or I can just go ahead and just paste these in real quick. So it's paste actions. So add transition, and this just say pattern, and all I want to do is just tie these two back to each other. Okay, right, so it's going to move, start in moving down, and then start moving up and down, up and down, up and down. Just really simple boss. You could make this as complicated as you want it to be. In this case, I'm just trying to keep it rather simple, just so he's doing something a little different from our normal monster. So he's going to spawn in, okay, spawn in and start moving up and down, up and down. All right, and so depending on where you put that spawn point, he'll translate in 9 from that. And you can always move him. I mean, you can set a move pattern to something else. You could use the same thing we did with some of the other monsters, make him homing maybe, so he's looking at the player all the time. There's lots of changes you can make to this. I'm just trying to keep this as a really simple boss spawn. So this is going to be our basic boss movement. As you can see, we can test this real quick. So when it starts, he's going to move and then move over. Always helps when you move your states to the proper object. We'll just go ahead and just delete those. All right, so this is going to be our boss. Needs to have an FSM. FSM should be, this would be boss move. All right, our bullet spawn definitely does not need a boss move. We'll call it something else here. Let's actually just delete this. All right, so boss spawn doesn't need an FSM. Boss does with its movement. So when we play the game now, it's going to move down and then slowly move up and down, up and down. And you can change the rates and all this kind of stuff at a later date. All right, so the second thing we need to do is create a sort of a health system for Mr. Boss here. So what I want to do is use the same health system we use for the player. All right, and I want to duplicate this, and we're going to call this Boss Health Manager. Okay, Boss Health Manager, and we're going to parent it into the boss. Okay, so he's now got a bullet spawn and a health manager that's going to be following along with him. All right, so with the health manager, that means he has his own life bar. In this case, I'm going to make his life bar, instead of being green, let's use I'll use the black square. All right, and then we want to slide this over to the other side here. And that's going to cover up our high score, but it'll be all right. All right, so to make this thing work, what we're going to have to do is, here's our life bar, we have our hurt, we have our death, we have all this restart and game over stuff. We don't need this because our guy's not going to, or killing the boss is not going to restart our level. Killing the boss, if anything, is going to win us the game. So what we have up here is the create object, which is the player explode for our particle effect. We have the destroy object for the player, and then we have all this stuff that has to do with health and score and all this kind of stuff, which we're not going to really wait. We're not really going to mess around with that too much. So really, all we need death to be is quite simply a delete transition. Here we go. All right. So all we need basically to happen is, when the boss is destroyed, we want to destroy the boss, right? Or actually, no, we want to create a, let's go to just leave it at player explode. Okay, that was our particle effect. So we'll leave it there, and the spawn point should be now the boss. Okay, and then our send event score manager will probably want to increase the score. And then what we're going to want to do is destroy the object, and the destroy object will be the boss. Okay, so player explode, boss, destroy object, boss, and then send event score manager, and then it would be death, but we don't want to, definitely don't want to send death. With anything, we're going to increase the score, and we'll do that later. So basically all death now needs to be is player explode and boss. Okay, so go ahead and delete this transition. All right, so what we basically now have is a life bar. It's going to draw all this, and then we have our normalize. Now what we need to do is to go to the variables, and right now we have a live string, a normal health, player health, and all this. We need one more variable that we're going to add. It's going to be a local, and this is going to be boss health. Okay, because you're going to have to change that health system a little bit. Boss health, we'll set his boss health to be, say, 5 at the moment. Live string, we're really not going to need for the moment with this situation, because we're really not going to need to draw the lives again. So let's go back to where it says text none GUI label. All right, so don't need you. This is going to be lives. We're not going to need you. Player lives, not going to need you. And so now all we need is that original draw texture, right? So it's just going to be our black bar is basically what we're going to do. And right now we've got it still set to normal height, but we got to change what normal height is. So what we want to have happen is when the boss gets hurt, it needs to hurt, and change that global player variable to boss health. Compare boss health. So anywhere it said player, we need to change that over to boss health. So float value, boss health, and then it sticks in there with float variable. All right. So what we should end up having now is normal health should still be 0.5, and then our boss health should be set up along these lines. So we have a normalized, we have our life bar, and then we have our death. So let's go and test this real quick. Again, all we did was change all the global player values, player health values into the boss health value. So then it should now allow us to have a health bar. The problem is we don't have any way of inflicting damage on the boss yet. Okay, so that's next. All right, to add the boss taking damage, what we want to have is we need a new FSM, and we're going to call this FSM, let's say boss hurt. Okay, because that's what we're going to do is we're going to hurt the boss. All right, so this system needs to work just like it did the monster system and all the other ones, where we basically need to do a physics and a collision event. Okay, and on collision enter with the player bullet, then we need to send event, and that event will be hurt. Okay, so add that transition, hurt, add the new state, right, and then the send event will be hurt. Drag that over here, and then what we want to have happen is go back to, again, classic state machine, send event, not send event data, send event. Target will be game object, not use owner, specify, and then we'll need to specify the game object. Let's pull this up. Okay, so specify what game object? Well, we want it to be our boss health manager. And what are we going to send? We're going to send hurt. Okay, so once that's done, we want to add a finish to it and come back to hurt. All right, so on collision enter with the player bullet, we want to send hurt, and hurt will then send the hurt event to our boss health manager. Makes sense? So now when our bullets make contact with them, it should take off the hit points. All right, so here goes the test. Hit play. Our character moves in. See the health bar is already up there, and then we start shooting at said boss. Boom, and he explodes, and you win 100 points, and you win the level. Woohoo! All right, so as you can see, our boss is probably going to need a lot more health points to make this happen. He also needs a better way to attack the player. Okay, so the first thing we need to have happen is we need to give the player, the boss, a shoot script. So let's go and add an FSM to boss, and this one is going to be we've got boss move, we have boss die, and now we need to have boss shoot. Okay. And the boss shoot is going to work almost exactly like our shooting monster did. Okay, the shooting monster, the shooter, And basically what needs to have happen on the shooting monster is it needs to not the shooter, we want this one here, where we basically just have a wait and then a left shoot and then a wait and then a left shoot. So as a matter of fact, what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to take these two and I'm going to copy these states, go to my boss and paste the states. Yes. So state 1, don't need you anymore. We have our wait, say 1 and done, and then we have our left shoot, and it's going to try to spawn a monster bullet from spawn left. Well, what we want to have happen is we want to spawn a homing bullet, and we want to spawn it from our boss bullet spawn. Okay, so that's the first part done, and then this let finish needs to go back to wait again. So now it goes into a shooting 1 missile every second or every 2 seconds, however you want to do this wait. Let's do 1.5, 1.5 seconds. That should be pretty good. But the main thing we need to do is we need to create a prefab out of our homing bullet and actually get that one working.